Okay, let's start the chapter. Chapter 15. And in this chapter, we will be talking about the global production, outsourcing, and the logistic part of it. In chapter 15, what we talk about the production, the supply chain management, or the logistics, sometimes referred to the retail management. We use the term production to both service and manufacturing activities, since one can produce a service or produce a physical product. So we know we can differentiate between company who produce service, company who produce product, and company who produce product with the support of service, and company who is interested in the service with the support of the product. In this chapter, we focus more on manufacturing than on the service activities. So we will use the term manufacturing as well as production. And we know in manufacturing, the products is always tangible and, well, in a service, intangible and perishable. Now, when we talk about material management, is the activity that controls the transmission of physical material through the value chain. The logistics is referred to the procurement and physical transmissions of material through the supply chain from the supplier to the customers. Then we have what you call TQM, or Total Quality Management, is a management philosophy in which the central focus in the need to improve the quality of the company's products and the services. So, and these are only definition. We'll explain more and the application of it. ISO 9000 or ISO 9000. ISO 9000 is a certification process that requires certain quality standards that must be met. Now, when we talk about a production and material management function, the production and material management functions of an international firm have a number of important objectives. The first is one is a lower cost, dispersing production activity to various locations where each activity can be performed most efficiently. So some parts made in USA, but they bring it to Canada. Some part made in Canada, put it together, and voila, there is a car called GM or Chrysler. The second is to increase the product quality by eliminating defective products from both the supply chain and the manufacturing process. And we'll explain more details on this. The quality control and cost, how do they work together? Improve a quality control will reduce the cost by an increase in the productivity, because time is now wasted, and the time when it's not wasted manufacturing on a poor quality product, and also by reducing the number of products that can be sold, leading to the direct reduction in the unit costs, or by lowering the rework or the scrap costs. Redoing things, resetting things, reinventing the wheels, or even things that is bad and you scrap it. And also by lowering the warranty cost which is one of the services cost. So it does like this. When you're improving the performance reliabilities, then what do? You increase the productivities, we said. We also lower the rework and scrap cost, and we lower the warranty cost. Lowering the warranty cost will lower the service cost and increase the profit. On the other hand, improving the performance and reliability, we said increase the productivities and lower the rework and the cost, scrap cost. And these two together will end up lowering the manufacturing cost and eventually will increase the profit. In the TQM or total quality management, company utilizing TQM or total quality management to boost their productivity. TQM takes as its control focus to need to improve the quality of the company products and services. The TQM philosophy was developed by a number of American consultants, such as the late Edward Deming, Joseph Uran, and Feigenbaum. In the 80s and 90s, when the large Japanese company set up manufacturing operation in North America, they suffered from a competitive environment that caused people to think that North American goods were better in quality than the Japanese in that time, in the 80s and 90s. So the Japanese, to address this public perception, Japanese companies shouted manufacturing method to produce good with a high level of quality so they could penetrate the market. And then the TQM was invented, not invented in Japan. It was invented in US, but it was used by the Japanese effectively in the 80s, and the term has subsequently becomes associated sometimes with the Japanese management principle. This is the reason why I always say that Japanese car, the inventions happens in West and the perfections happening in East. In the ISO 9000 or ISO, for example, the European Union require that the quality of a firm manufacturing process and product be certified under the quality standard known ISO 9000 before the firm allowed to access to the UAE market. Many North American companies that do business internationally also ask clients and suppliers to push and adhere to the ISO 9000 standards. What's an ISO? Because international organization for standardization would have a different acronyms in the different languages. International Organization Standardization in English, IOS, and in French is OIN for Organisation Internationale de Normalisation. I think I said it right in French. It is focused, its founders decide to give it also a short all-purpose, which is they chose ISO, derived from the Greek isos, means equal. Whatever the country, whatever the language, the short form of organization names is always ISO. So it's not an iOS, it's ISO. Now, an essential decision facing an international firms is where to locate its manufacturing activities to achieve the goal of minimizing the cost and improving the product quality. There is factors to make such a decision. That's what you call country factors, like the political economy, the culture, the relative factor costs differ from one country to another country. The other thing, the difference in the political economy and national culture influence the benefit, cost, the risk of doing business in a country. A firm should locate its various manufacturing activity where the economic, political, and cultural condition include the factor costs are conducive to the performance of those activities. In other words, we also need to look at the technology factors. So, in the technology factors, the type of technology a firm uses in its manufacturing can be pivotal in the location decision. For example, because of the technology constraint, in some cases, it is necessary to perform certain manufacturing activities in only one location and serve the world market from there. In other cases, the technology may make it feasible to perform an activity in multiple locations. So the technology, if it's available in different countries, why not? Assuming other factors is similar. The technology factors and the fixed costs. As we saw in chapter 11, in some cases, the fixed costs of setting up manufacturing plant are so high, like a production of cars, steels, manufacturing so high that the firm must serve the world market from a single location or from very few locations. So it is what you call the factor is minimum efficient scale. The level of output at which most plant level scale economics are exhausted is referred to as a minimum efficient scale of output. Their cost does not go down anymore from their productions. Actually, it starts going up, their average cost. So this is at the scale of output plant must operate at to realize all the major plant of economic scale. When they start the last piece of that they produce, the other piece that after that gets produced is the cost of production start going up. That's the last one before it is called the economic of scale. The larger is the minimum efficient scales of a planet, the greater the argument for centralizing production in a single location or a limited locations. So the more you can save money from producing more, the more argument that we have to produce in one location. The term flexible manufacturing technology or a lean production, as it's often called, cover a range of manufacturing technology design. There are so many issues with the technology, with the manufacturing that you need to reduce the waste, the cost, the warehousing, and that's what you call a lean manufacturing. Is first of all to reduce the setup time for a complex equipment, increase the utilization of the individual machine through the better scheduling, also make sure the production line moving smoothly. If you need extra machine somewhere, you have to do that. Solve the bottleneck thing, improve the quality at all stage of manufacturing process because each stage is a supplier for the next stage. So any defect or default here might stop the whole line. Now, concentrated manufacturing makes the most sense when the differences exist that we need to concentrate the manufacturing when the differences exist between the countries in factor, cost, political economy, or culture. A trade barrier exists. Externalities arising from concentration of like enterprise favors certain location, for example. Exchange rate are expected to remain relatively stable. The production technology has a high fixed cost, or a flexible manufacturing technology exists. The product value to the weight ratio is high. So the value of the product is high comparing to the how much it weighs, like producing gold, for example. The products serve universally needed. So if it's universally needed, similar product, you produce it in one center. That's when you concentrate manufacturing. Now, when do you decentralize of manufacturing? Is when the difference between countries in a factor cost difference there is in a political economy and the culture do not have a substantial impact. Trade barriers are high, so you want to produce in a country that you want to sell in it. Location externalities are not important. Volatility of the in the exchange rate is expected. Exchange rate goes up and down. Production technology has a low fixed cost, so easy to put another manufacturer somewhere. Low minimum efficient scales and flexible manufacturing technology is not available. The product value to the weight ratio is low, like cement. The product does not serve universal need and needs to be customized for each country. There is also a hidden cost of foreigner location, is like the employee turnover, the poor product qualities, and the low productivity are significant issues in some outsourcing location. We will talk each one of them separate, explain how they affect the business. The strategic role of a foreigner production side. The strategic role is the fact that a foreigner factory can be evolve over time, becomes important. The pressure from the head office to improve the factory cost cultures, for example, structures. They would like to produce in somewhere because it's cheaper. Now, so in general, you need to take a look at this. Outsourcing production, make or buy decisions are important factors in many firms' manufacturing strategy. What's the advantage of making is like a lower cost facility specialty? You go through this and try to match it for why we do an outsourcing to make or to buy. When we are producing something, there's a two option. One option is we buy the supplier things from others, or we make it ourselves. And if we make it ourselves, because we can manage a lower cost. But if we let some buy it from somewhere else as a units that we need to for the production, it gives us a strategic flexibility, cheaper, more production supplies, and we have a total flexibility. Also, in the advantage of we make is we said the lower cost, facilitate the specialized investment, protect the property products, technology, and improve the scheduling. On the other hand, the advantage of buying these products that putting it into production is, we said, is the strategic flexibility. Also, there is a lower cost could be involved in it because the others producing it cheaper, and offset that might involve in it. There is some issues that we practice is like coordinating a global manufacturing system through the IT solutions, for example, or moving things. Johnson and Johnson does that very well. The other thing that we might use in implications of for business is the power of just-in-time or GIT. This is a Japanese one, just-in-time. The role of information technology and the internet, the effect of it. We'll explain each one of them. The just-in-time is in Japan in 1980s. This way, the space was a premium. There's not much space. Manufacturing process had to deal with the space relation restriction for warehousing, assembling, so they had a limited uh, space. One way companies saved money was to have their supplier send the component just when it was a time to use them, meaning you did not have to store the supplies in advance. They be delivered just in time to put them into the product you are assembling. An average for the American, the warehouse costing, warehouse, we're not talking only products in a warehouse. In a warehouse, in a process of productions, and the end product that hasn't been sold is a 30 to 40% of total costs. The value is there for the company. So the minimizing this means minimizing the cost and maximizing the profit. This is why just in time or GIT is important. To get the product, you don't have to wait, put it in a warehouse long enough. You just produce it. So this is end of the chapter. Thank you.